Next question, Frank, you can.
So this is for Amy, and I do so asking her in the reality of now the market exists. The market that Dr. Friedman wants to have now exists. She's the transplant surgeon. She's got a 72-year-old patient in front of her, and by her market system, there's a 56-year-old middle class who's before her as well. The 56-year-old has come forward and is prepared to sell his or her kidney, his kidney. And now I'd like to know from Dr. Friedman the following. Would you advise your 72-year-old patient to accept a 56 or 60-year-old when the insurance company of this patient is saying, we can get you to India tomorrow, and we can get you to Manila tomorrow, and we can have a 20-year-old kidney for you. If the alternative is that the patient could go out of country for a 20-year-old versus your market system that will only provide the 56 or 60-year-old, what would you advise your patient?
Dr. Friedman?
The construct of the system has to be along the lines of what we have with Medicare now, and that is that patients who currently go out of this country to have transplants at non-Medicare approved transplant centers don't have their medications paid for subsequently.
That's not true.
That's prohibited.
That's not true.
What is true?
End of discussion. That's not true. You can come back and have you're coming back and you can have your medications still. If you're Medicare eligible, you'll have your medications paid
Frank,
for.
we're now required to inform every patient.
Let's go back to
You ask her a question.
Frank, we are now required to inform every patient that if they don't have their transplant performed at a Medicare-approved center, Medicare won't pay for their medications. That's the type of system that we ought to proceed with, the same kind of...
Is the patient going out of country or not?
They shouldn't be permitted to be because they won't have access to medications and other care.
Okay, Lloyd, you get a chance to ask a question.
Okay, mine's a question for Frank. Now, unlike the other participants in this debate, I'm not a good and generous person. It's true. Ask my daughter, she's there. I am so callous and uncaring that I wrote a codicil to my will disinheriting any member of my family who consents to the donation of any of my organs unless they are paid at least $864.37 per organ. I've posted this on my webpage, and other people have downloaded it and amended their wills accordingly. Now I ask you, Dr. Pangloss, Dr. Delmonico, is your objection to my estate profiting from the salvaging of my organs so strong that you think it just and right to threaten innocent sick people with prison for purchasing my organ? Is there some great ethical principle that I do not understand under which the sick should be condemned to die rather than obtain organs from the self-interested and even selfish?
No, the problem isn't that they would have to buy your organs. It's that they'd go elsewhere. They won't want your organs, Lloyd. They're going to go to Manila for the 20-year-old. Thank you.
I don't think that was an answer, Frank.
Well, yes, it is an answer. The answer is that they're going to be in a position when you have legalized markets to say, who wants your organs in your circumstance when I can go to Manila to buy one from a 20-year-old? That's the answer.
Sally wants, I'm going to break the rules. Sally wants to jump in. She's the only one who's ever bought an organ here.
Thought about it.
So let's get some practical experience.
Frank, I don't understand. We can do that now. I can go to Manila now. So I don't see why having a mechanism where organs can be compensated for by a third party makes any difference at all.
The point is, Sally, that I'd like you to see what it looks like to go to Manila.
Well, the reason I would have to go to Manila is because I couldn't buy it here.
If you say in the United States it's legal to have a market in the U.S., then you're going to set up a global competition for buyers. And the rich people will, why should we stay here? Why shouldn't the insurance companies sell?
Frank, we can do that now.
And the point
is,
and
people will stay here if they can get it now.
Okay, we ping-pong on this back and forth. David, you have one last shot at asking a question.
A question either for Amy or Sally.
Come on, you got to pick one. Come on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, let me.
She can refer to the other one.
Let me pick Sally, because if I recall correctly, some of your affiliation is with a group that doesn't like all the kinds of regulations that some of us do like. Your think tank is not known for its pro-regulatory system. Given that stance in most areas, let me just rattle off a couple of quick points.
It's got to be informative.
It's
It's
gotta
like
be
Jeopardy.
quick.
It's in form of a question.
It is.
Okay.
Given what we know about Enron, given what we know about mortgage works, given what we know, at least according to some, about the way hedge funds work, given these examples, what makes you confident that a regulatory system where everyone could enter the market could possibly work? Everything we know about regulation suggests that this would be a disaster. And to move us to to count on regulation, as you do, as Amy did earlier, you're out of your league.
All right,
Well, first-
Amy or
Oh,
Sally, whoever,
yeah.
which one?
Thank you for bringing up AEI, because it's actually a place where we have more intellectual freedom than most universities, which is why I can talk about a regulated system and don't have to adhere to a classic free market form. Now, the kind of system I have in mind is a straw man I think you guys keep setting up. We are not talking about a classic commercial free-for-all or a free market or an eBay system. We're talking about a third-party payer. For example, today, you, Ira, could decide to give a kidney. You'd be called a Good Samaritan donor. You would show up at the New York Med, and you'd say, please give my organ to the next person on the list in this region, in this hospital, in the country, and they would do it. The only difference in a model that we're thinking of, or I'm thinking about, is where you go and give your organ, and to your retirement account is wired $40,000. End of story. Everything else is the same. The screening you go through, the same medical checkup, everything.